What most people
don't know about students
dropping out.
About students dropping out is that it's a rational decision. My name is Rick Ayers. I taught high school for many years in the East Bay, and I'm a professor of teacher education now at University of San Francisco. I teach teachers, essentially. My oldest daughter got C's and D's in high school, just about dropped out. I was tutoring her, and then I realized, oh, I like this stuff. I could actually do this. I ended up leaving restaurant work and getting my teaching credential. And I have been deeply engaged in issues of how to teach effectively, how to reach kids, how to do urban education. A lot of times teachers, when they've been around a long time, they become administrators. But I couldn't stand that. They just meet with adults all the time, which would be boring to me. So I like working with young teachers. I still go in the schools, and it's fun. I think there are serious problems in education and serious problems with dropping out. If students drop out, it means they're discouraged, they don't see anything for themselves there. But I would have to say this, they're not stupid. They actually are making a reasonable choice in some cases. First of all, if you live in East Oakland, you have to be able to look around and see, is there evidence that staying in school helps? Is there evidence that there's a future for me? Is there any evidence I'm going to get to college and be able to pay for it? I don't like to make this all bad choices by the students. We need to honor their rational mind. And sometimes I hesitate to say that because some very nefarious forces have taken that critique to use it to build these private charter schools, to attack teachers, to attack teacher education. But I do think that school is really boring, and a lot of the things students are learning is useless, and students are fed contempt. It's interesting. My wife was working at a job. Somehow a new boss came in, and she got the message that the new boss didn't think much of her, thought she was bad, and she's actually awesome at what she does. What was weird was her performance got worse. She didn't want to go to work in the morning. She was sleepy at work. She just was miserable. And it was just because she got this message. But the truth is, our students get that message every day. You pretty much suck. You're really a weak student. But try hard and see if you can do well on this test. We have to honor the insights that students have in critiquing the education game. And I'll tell you one other example. In teacher education, we have our student teachers do a focal student study. They look at one student and spend a lot of time getting to know them. One thing they have to do is shadow their student for a day. Go to every class, go wherever they go, sit in the back of the room, they don't, talk to them. And everyone reports, I could barely make it through the day. It was so boring. I was looking at the clock, and the clock moved so slowly. And we want these kids to do this every day for now 10 months out of the year, 10 and a half months out of the year. Under those circumstances, I can't imagine I would stay. We have an economy that's not prepared to absorb them. A lot of these kids are considered surplus population. It's an overall crisis in the economy, in the culture. These students who are miserable in school, and don't get me wrong, I know that they make their own mistakes. They refuse to turn in homework, they don't study because they already believe they're losing the game. But these same students run after school to these nonprofits like Youth Speaks and Youth Radio, to places where they're not getting any credit, no one's paying them, and they go there because, why? Because they're doing something valuable. These students who we say are weak in literacy, they'll be texting all day, they've memorized thousands of lines of hip hop. They have tremendous literacy practices, but those practices are not allowed inside the school walls. One thing that I would advocate is that, first of all, that we make schools relevant to young people. And I don't mean making it simple. I think that students want to be challenged, they want to read the challenging texts. They have literacy. What the problem is, they're not given an opportunity to show that in any way that is honored by the school system. So we have to more align schools. On the education side, we have a lot of work to do. I think there are many wonderful teachers, and the sad thing in education is that within the first 3 years, 40% of teachers quit the profession because they're frustrated with it. If that happened in the medical field, we'd call that a national crisis. People can't last 3 years. I've seen very often young people who've been discouraged with the game, who've recognized the game is set against them, who've found a way, in a kind of oppositional way, to say, you're not getting me out of here, I'm going to get this. One thing that's missing from the national narrative about cities, about young people, is a real understanding of the lives that young people lead. And this is why young people want to go to places where they can do creative writing, where they can do poetry, where they can do their own radio. They want their real story told. And people are surviving not because they're the baddest gunslingers, but they're surviving with love. And there's a lot of love in communities that is something that they need to be able to tell that story back to themselves.